Well, here I am out here in the garage, the only place where Toyota Celicas don't leak when it rains, inside of the garage. Anyway, P0420 code. This is some information that I've had for a little while here, and I'm just finally getting around to putting it onto a video so you can decide if this may be your problem or not. I was getting an intermittent check engine light, and I tested it, and I'd have a code for the cat efficiency low. I found out that if I ran non-ethanol fuel, the kind you get like for boats and stuff like that, that clearly states on the pump, no ethanol. If I ran non-ethanol fuel, I would get it way less often, maybe see it once a week or something when I was driving back and forth to work all the time. But I decided I'd go ahead and test it on a long road trip, even though I had a battery in my car that was a little bit weak, and if the car sat for a week, which it rarely did, I would either have to put a charger on it, jump start it, or it might crank, but if it did crank, it would crank real slow. So I went ahead and took that trip, and the video that follows is some of the testing I did on that trip, finding out what ethanol, non-ethanol fuel did. But to sum it up, so you don't have to watch the whole video if you don't want to, changing the battery is what stopped me from having a problem with the cat efficiency code. I can't say it's going to be what your problem is. What I would say is if your car sets for a couple days, test your battery, make sure your battery's good. Maybe even take it down and have it tested, have a load test put on it or whatever if you're getting a cat efficiency code, because that weak battery is what was causing my code. Right now, I have been running for the most part non-ethanol fuel in the car, but for the past, I'd say month, I've had ethanol fuel, regular fuel from the pump, regular high test fuel, premium gas from the pump, which probably more than likely has ethanol in it. And I'm not having any problems with the light coming on. So check your battery voltage, make sure your battery is good. Just wanted to put this in here that I've seen cars that started fairly well that only had 10 volts at the battery, and that's going to cause the alternator to work very hard trying to maintain the 13.5, 14.5 volts that the computer wants to see to work with all the sensors. And if the voltage is low going to the sensors, the voltage is low coming back from the sensors, the computer's not going to know what to do with that information. And this is a voltage tester hooked to a battery that has one weak cell in it. It's showing 11.5, but as soon as you put a little bit of a load on it, just a test light, pulls it down to 10 volts. A good battery doesn't care about that little bit of load. All right, and here's the code we have. I've been running fuel with 10% ethanol in it, or a couple percent, as you get from just about any place you buy fuel from. So what I'm going to do is at 1,743 on the trip meter, I am going to swap over to non-ethanol fuel. I am not going to reset the code, and I'm going to see how long it takes for this code to reset itself. Just cruising right along. We're up here in the land of freedom where the speed limit is 80 miles an hour. My speedometer's a little bit off, so GPS says that's 80 right there. And she just cruises right along. So here's where we are. It looks like we put about 350 or so miles. I can't remember exactly where I filled it at. But the check engine light did not go out on its own. I've refilled with fuel again. Non-ethanol fuel, and I'm going to reset the check engine light this time and see if it stays out. I do know for a fact that I can buy non-ethanol fuel at one gas station down there around Charleston that will make the check engine light go out, but that may be because of more short trips and more key cycles. This has only had about 4 stops on an entire tank of fuel, and the check engine light never did go out. So on with more testing. All right, full of non-ethanol fuel, code erased, ready to roll at 2,106 miles. See if this thing stays off through the entire tank with non-ethanol fuel. Well, we have a check engine light, and I'm sure that it's for cat efficiency and all that good stuff. So well, if you stuck around to the end of this video, I'll tell you the rest of the story. I repeated this test several times with ethanol and non-ethanol fuel, a couple tanks each at a time, and I found out that with non-ethanol it would go several hundred miles, went 180 this time. Sometimes it would go nearly an entire tank. But with the ethanol fuel, 40-50 miles that light would be on, maybe even less than that sometimes. Before I left on the trip, I knew the battery needed to be replaced, but just thinking, hey, I'm not going to leave the car sitting very long while I'm on vacation. It might set a few hours, and that's all, you know, while I'm sleeping or something, and it'll be driven multiple times a day. So the battery will be fine. But after I got back, I went ahead and replaced the battery, and it was then that I realized that my check engine light was gone. I didn't have a problem with P0420 codes anymore. So anyway, it fixed my problem. Maybe it'll fix yours. Test your battery, see what happens. All right, like, subscribe, share, leave a comment, and as always, thanks for watching.